and it was significantly easier with a loaded belt to just click in the rear of the belt and connect in the sides. I was kind of surprised that it was a lot easier than placing my holster and working it around. Like I would normally connect in my holster like kind of where I want it and then have to kind of work it as some pieces dangle and fell off and reconnected. So the magnet system made it significantly easier, and I'm kind of surprised how much easier it actually did make it to hook everything up. So let's move into our last test, and this is gonna be the inner and outer belt adhesion. Oh yeah, kids, it's that time again. We got our Amazon branded skip it, a Scribe-Brie or other weird off-branded Amazon trash name, and I'm excited to say that the belt adhesion was great. Broke it. I added some rocks to it, so it'll have some more mass. Don't try this at home, kids. Hey Wizards, now it's been a bit, but I welcome you back to the Battle Belt review channel. And the belt we're looking at today just released like yesterday. It's probably already sold out, so let's just give you what you want. Today we'll be reviewing the all-new Agilite Magnetix Battle Belt. I have mine all geared out too, like today we're just gonna be reviewing the actual belt, but I'll also do a video going over the whole loadout that I'll link to later on up here also. And in that video, I'll go way in more depth into the different items on the belt and dive into each item if you want some ideas on how to set up your belt. Not the medical kit though, I'm not allowed to talk about that yet. One other bit of exciting news, because like a billion of you guys asked for it, you can now use discount code TLDco to save a whole bunch on Agilite gear too. So make sure to use our discount code and save a little bit of money. Now, I think all of you know who Agilite is, but I do want to take just a moment and give them a little bit of love. Agilite is an Israeli-based company that focuses on creating cutting-edge gear for the individual defending their home, their community, or even their country. I have to say that the heart of Agilite comes from its amazing people who make up the brand, and I'm always excited to see each and every one of them. It always feels like a family get-together when the Agilite team and the TLD team meets up. So that means I'm probably gonna have a little bit of bias when it comes to this belt review, and this belt and the whole setup was sent to me for the purpose of this review. So I say that because I think you all should watch a bunch of other videos, also some other reviews on this so you can form your own opinion. I'm sure EOD Fish and a bunch of other gear review greats will be looking at this belt also. This is the Battle Belt review channel though, so this belt is gonna go through the same tests that every other belt goes through, and it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. And that's kind of a good segue. Why is this Magnetix Battle Belt with like a literal pile of other belts on the market one you should possibly consider, and what makes it special? The Magnetix is a Generation 1.5 belt that uses an outer molle connection system with an inner curve core to reduce weight and add rigidity. As the name implies, the inner and outer belt uses a magnet system to help the user in placing the belt and removing the struggle of donning and aligning all their gear. And for me, I'm certainly interested in testing it all out because I definitely love the look of it. But for me, I usually like connect in my holster and then work everything around. So I'm kind of interested into how useful the Magnetix will actually be when we go to test it all out. I'm also realizing I kind of skimmed over a little bit. I should probably explain what the heck Generation 1.5 is. It's kind of crucial. For belts, we really have 3 generations. The Gen 1 with the molle style belts like the Ronin and Lead Devil. These belts are strong, heavy, have large cobra buckles, and generally what you think of when you hear the word battle belt. Then we have what I call Generation 1.5. You see this on belts such as the Pharaoh Bison and the GBRS, whatever it's called that nobody cares about. And the 1.5 is that middle generation because it still uses the outer molle webbing, but then it uses some sort of inner material like Tegris or Curv to make the belt overall lighter, but then also more stiffer than just the regular Gen 1 fabric. Then we have our Gen 2 belts such as the HRT Arc, DM Mech, and Axle that are almost entirely Tegris or Curv material. These are usually stupid lightweight and often offer more rigidity because they're fully Tegris or Curv, and they usually have some sort of a swappable buckle system, so you're not usually gonna have a large Cobra buckle, and if you do, usually in Gen 2 you can swap it out. So then again, the Agilite Magnetix is that Generation 1.5, and I apologize for that tangent, but I think it's important to understand because each different generation brings different pros and cons and also different wants by the customer. So I took our old list we have and rebuilt it to more properly reflect each generation so you can see each belt in each form factor. The DM Mech belt leading our Gen 2s and the Lead Devil and OG Ronin belt topping the Gen 1 list. And the GBRS I got lost in the mail belt as the only one on our tier 1.5 list currently. We need to review like the Bison belt or something else after this, so the one that's up there can be more accurately represented for how low it actually sits on the list. But let's get started with this thing though, and begin with the Magnetix inner belt. Starting with the front, we see the inner belt uses a fold over and tighten design instead of the wrap over inner belt design. The front inner belt buckle has a cool Agilite logo on it. One small concern here is though the buckle itself is larger than the belt, and I would have liked to see this taper down so it didn't potentially cause hot spots. The buckle does hide an amazing feature with elastic expansion to allow your belt to flex with you as you move or eat meals, as it makes small adjustments for you. I will say the front adjustment on mine was pretty tight, so I do recommend you working the elastic as it makes it just a ton more comfortable as you begin to wear it. And that's interesting also to note because that's something very unique about this inner belt is that it really seems like the more you wear it, it actually learns you and gets more and more comfortable the more you wear it. Also hidden under the belt and buckle is the inner curved tongue. This slides into the opposite side to help with connecting in appendix holsters and gear when you're connecting it all up. This is nice because I can actually like hook in my whole appendix holster and then just cinch it all up instead of like having to half connect it up and then move each piece and do everything else. It just removes all that drama. Moving along the outside, we see our outer loop material, and this area is not curve reinforced and feels more like a leather material. This is done so the inner belt can learn your body shape like I mentioned and better fit you than like tough Curv can. I wore mine for about 5 or 6 days straight, and you can see how it's learning and fitting exactly to me instead of just being a straight rigid belt. And it's really resulted in this inner belt shaping exactly to me and my hips and my body profile and kind of becoming one of the most comfortable inner belts I've ever worn. On the rear, we have our magnet magic with our 2 circular magnets with our triangle middle marker that lines up with the outer belt. These work to provide a strong and instantaneous alignment with the outer belt. Now, this is a crazy feature-rich inner belt, and I know you're gonna ask, is it the best inner belt? Well, I like it a lot, and it's definitely one of my favorites with the DM inner belt and like the Blue Alpha Gear inner belt, like I love both of those. But I think with one small change, it could become my absolute favorite, and we'll go over all that when we move into the actual testing. For now though, let's finally get to the meat of this review and take a look at the Magnetix outer belt. Here we have our Magnetix belt in multicam, and I just love the look of this thing with all the inner curve styling. At the front of the belt, we see an ANSI rated Cobra buckle with a large 1-inch D-ring. We also see the built-in adjustment strap to allow the belt to widen or loosen. Also along the side is a portion of elastic webbing to hold the loose straps of the adjustment down to the belt. Now you can have this interesting situation that I've dealt with where you have the belt where you have to adjust it larger than you can reach with the extra webbing, but then still have some of that extra tongue flapping between the actual webbing to secure it and your buckle. And I just solved that with a bit of one wrap to secure it down into some of the inner molle slots like I would do on one of the Ronin belts. Under the buckle, we see the dual connection system as the inner tongue slides into the opposite side of the belt. And this is crucial, and you generally see this with Gen 2 belts, because what that does is it connects the 2 sides of the Tegris or the Curv, so it can't like buckle in on itself and makes the whole belt just one cohesive unit. The inner tongue also has molle slots in it, like I showed you how I connected in that one wrap, so you don't lose out on molle slots as you expand the belt, and you can easily add gear into this position. Like how I connected my Agilite pistol pouches here, these are actually connected into the Curv core instead of the outside molle also. And yes, when we go into the actual loadout video, I'll show you how I made these angled. It's a little tricky. Working around further, we see the Generation 1.5 style with the outer multicam molle and inner Curv core. Now, I keep mentioning Curv, and it's probably interesting because it's not Tegris. Tigris kind of glows under IR, but that whole thing's kind of a silly thing to talk about anyway. And it's not really why Curv, I mean, it's one of the reasons why, but it's not the main reason why I think Curv is such a big upgrade. How Curv is better is Curv doesn't really have a memory like Tigris does. And some of you who have Tigris belts may have like thrown them in a corner somewhere. And then when you go to pick them up, they're kind of in that shape where they lumped up on the floor. Curv doesn't do that. It's still going to retain its shape. It's not going to remember how it was sitting. So it just makes for a better longevity of belt with the Curv material. Back on our belt though, the angled Curv slits give a cool, aggressive look, but you unfortunately can't hook into them to just run your pouches angled. On the rear, we have our square and triangle markings in the Curv material to match the positions of the magnets on our inner belt. It seems like a small thing, but I really like having the triangle there too, because I know where the midpoint of the belt is, and then I can start placing all my gear and then working everything out. Looking at the inside, we see the inner hook of the belt system on the left and right sides, with our magnet and expanded tongue area uncovered. The magnet area doesn't really have me concerned because that's obviously having a different type of adhesion, but the front area not having any hook and loop as you expand things out does have me a little bit concerned, and I'm interested to see how that does when we actually go test everything. And you should all get excited because I planned ahead. And that's kind of our close look of the inner and outer belt, and I don't know, it looks pretty exciting. I love the look of the whole thing, but let's get into it and see what this belt is all about as we move into our first test with price. The Magnetix belt is priced at $180, which is significantly less expensive than other belts in its tiers, such as the Bison at $210 and the Gibberish at $200. It is a bit more expensive than the HRT Arc at $125 and the DM Mech at $110. So it's a little bit more expensive than my personal favorites of the Gen 2, but it's also significantly less expensive than other belts in the same style. Plus, the Bison isn't using Curv, so you gain a pretty huge advantage there too. Next though, let's look at how we connect everything up with our pouch attachment test. Here we see the legacy molle attachment system similar to Gen 1 belts. The molle on the outside holds the pouches in place and you feed your pouches through the outer molle. This can be a bit of a pain, and I do like how Gen 2 belts have a new system making this a lot easier. You also still have the ability to connect in pouches via one wrap and just use hook and loop to connect these up also. I would have really liked to instead attach my pouches through the inner Curv core and use the slots to angle my mags, but unfortunately I could only attach onto the outside. And that's another big advantage I want to say for Gen 2 belts is generally you can connect into the entire core, like the Tigris or the Curv core of the whole belt, instead of just the external molle. Now though, I say that, but the molle was insanely sturdy, and all the Agilite pouches were obviously designed for this, so you're not losing anything with this one style over the other. I'd love to see a Walsh-inspired version of this belt though, with the sewing flipped, so then you could have like some angled style pouches like hook into the Tigris core of this whole thing, and then maybe have like some straight ones along the side and have all this cool pouch configuration. Hell, I don't know, just do them all angled actually. I'll quit yapping about angled mags though as we move into the next test, and this is gonna be kind of a contentious one, and this is the buckle style test. The Magnetix belt uses a full-on Cobra buckle with large D-ring that seems to be marked as ANSI rated for 22 kilonewtons. For our Facebook audience out there that's never heard of kilonewtons, that's about 5,000 pounds of force. That's a lateral force though. Lateral, not like climbing or rappelling. Plus, I don't know why I need to say this, you'd also need a sit harness for rappelling. I'm just moving on. The included Cobra buckles are sewn in, so those folks that may want to attach in smaller buckle or G-hooks aren't able to do this on this belt, unfortunately. And with this test, I'm a little bit surprised because Agilite is kind of known for customization on customization, letting the user kind of pick what they want to have. I personally like the big Cobra buckles, but I know that it can cause some hot spots with some people, and it can limit some different gear configurations. Like the big buckle makes it hard to do that cool horizontal mag thing that I do on the mech belt. So just keep that in mind with the buckle if you're considering this belt. All right, next test we're gonna go into is weight. The Magnetix belt in both the inner and outer belt are extremely lightweight and provide a significantly lighter system compared to previous Gen 1 belts. Here we can see the outer belt weight is around 11 ounces compared to the approximately 6 ounce weight of the DM Mech belt. The Magnetix also has a huge Cobra buckle, obviously the magnets, and a whole bunch more stuff going on, so I don't think changing it to like a fully Gen 2 belt would really do all that much in terms of weight. All right, the next one is one this thing should shine in pretty well with this design, and that's the rigidity test. Here I found the Magnetix is nice and rigid in the directions you want it to be, while allowing for flexibility in the directions you want it to move. I found the belt was rigid, but not as much as the fully Tegris or Curv belts. As you can't use these curved slits, it may have been better to leave the material uncut so it can add further rigidity into the entire belt system. Now, the cuts do look badass, and it is plenty rigid, but it could be more rigid if you filled those cuts back in. Now though, if they change it so you can connect into the inner curve core, disregard filling it in, keep that for sure, it'll be amazing. I'm not gonna lie though, I really do love the aggressive look of those cuts. Now though, let's move into our next test, and this is gonna be the inner belt, and we're gonna talk about one small change that I hinted at that could make this one of the best inner belts on the market. The inner belt does some really amazing things with the holster tongue and elastic expansion of the belt system. The belt is easy to don, and the fold over of the belt makes for quick and easy adjustments. But I do again wish the buckle was smaller than the overall belt width. Now, I did notice the tongue length was a bit short and didn't leave me much adjustment when I added in my EDC. Adding an additional 2 to 3 inches on the end of the belt would give a lot more in terms of adjustment range for different body types. The extra tongue length really wouldn't interfere with anything either, like to have that extra 2 or 3 inches here on the side going around your body. And I think that one small change would make this inner belt the only one that I'd ever want. Next though, let's go into our test of the actual outer belt design. Here we see the magic in action as the magnets connect directly into the inner belt to make a quick and easy alignment system. I found my holster and gear was located in the same position each time, and it was significantly easier with a loaded belt to just click in the rear of the belt and connect in the sides. I was kind of surprised that it was a lot easier than placing my holster and working it around. Like I would normally connect in my holster like kind of where I want it and then have to kind of work it as some pieces dangle and fell off and reconnected. So the magnet system made it significantly easier, and I'm kind of surprised how much easier it actually did make it to hook everything up. One note though is that I did have a few hot spots on the front of the belt, and having the magnet alignment means I would have to offset the whole inner belt also if I wanted this portion more over to my left side. And I'd really recommend Agilite just get a lot more aggressive with the cut angle here on the front. I'll just hit the gym and sand that little corner off some more, and I'm sure it'll be fine. So let's move into our last test, and this is gonna be the inner and outer belt adhesion. Oh yeah, kids, it's that time again. We got our Amazon branded skip it, a Scribe-Brie or other weird off-branded Amazon trash name, and I'm excited to say that the belt adhesion was great. I broke it. I added some rocks to it, so it'll have some more mass. Don't try this at home, kids. As I was initially a little concerned about the missing loop on the front of the tongue, everything stayed perfectly locked in position, and the combination of buckles, magnets, and hook and loop meant the entire system stayed in place even when I was jumping around like a moron. So no concerns from me of that front section not being loop lined like if you expand it out once we actually tested it all out. I hope you all noticed I did get a longer skip it or Scribe-Brie or whatever it's called, so I don't actually crush this one. But that's all the tests and kind of all my thoughts as we move through each one. So let's see where this belt ended up on our list and how it did. Looking at the new classifications, the Magnetix belt cleanly takes the #1 spot in the Generation 1.5 belts, as it offers a form-fitting inner belt along with a magnetic quick alignment system that just looks nice and aggressive. It also incorporates a proven molle connection system with an innovative belt interface to keep all your pouches and holsters in the same position every time. And now I'm actually hoping we don't have to talk about reviewing the Bison belt in the future, because the Magnetix belt is significantly cheaper, has a ton more features, and has the upgraded Curv design. Plus, you can also use discount code TLDco to save even more on this. Overall, the Magnetix is just an ultra smart buy for anyone wanting a battle belt, giving you a lightweight option that doesn't break the bank, while also offering you features dumb 4-letter companies would never think of including. This is just a great product that shows the innovation of the Agilite family. And let's take a moment, because if you have the K19 or a K0, this is just a no-brainer because the whole setup just looks absolutely badass together. I do also want to caveat that, yeah, the Magnetix belt is one of my favorite belts, but the real magic happens once you kind of connect in the full family of Agilite pouches and gear and everything. Stay tuned as we go over this whole belt loadout and talk about each piece and share the ludicrous combination of innovation and functionality when you set everything up. Just the belt on its own, like the magnets and everything, yeah, that's pretty neat, but putting it all together really blew me away. So make sure to check out that whole loadout video, as I think it's super awesome. But I hope this review of the Agilite Magnetix Battle Belt was useful in your purchasing decisions. I want to say thanks to all of our Patreon and YouTube members. You make it possible we can do all this stuff, and I just love you guys, and I love the community that we formed. And I want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what you think about the Magnetix Battle Belt and what pouches you're going to put on it. I want to hear about it. All right, everyone, Walsh out. Do you guys know how excited I am? I didn't understand that when you order this, it came in like a six-pack of ankle swing balls. That's what it says on the package. Look at all these. We're gonna be set for extreme tests and battle belts for a long time. Maybe we could do a giveaway. You could win one of these. How exciting would that be? All right, everybody. Oh, I think I swallowed a bug. All right. Good grief. Go away.